Once I made up my mind to divorce Holly, I started keeping my distance. I made sure to stay completely out of her orbit. When she walked over to grab my hand in front of my coworkers, I instinctively pulled away. After work, her sleek black car was parked right outside my office building. I pretended it was invisible, practically throwing myself into the back of a passing cab just to escape. At the airport, a buddy of mine noticed my solo arrival and gave me a weird look. "Why didn't you ask your wife to pick you up?" he asked, chuckling. "Afraid she'll get too tired, or just too whipped to let her deal with the traffic?" I shook my head, my expression flat. "Neither." He raised an eyebrow. "Things between us aren't exactly a fairy tale right now," I explained, keeping my voice low. "We are more like strangers who just happen to know each other's daily routines. Honestly, I feel more relaxed making small talk with a random guy on the street than I do sitting in a room with her." Before the words fully left my mouth, a sharp clatter echoed behind me. I turned around. Holly was standing right there. She wore a perfectly tailored black suit, her face completely drained of color. Her hands, hanging rigidly by her sides, curled into tight fists. A stiff, awkward smile forced its way onto my lips. That familiar, stomaching sense of inadequacy I always felt around her rushed back into my chest like a tidal wave. Holly stared at me, her dark eyes heavy, swirling with a storm of emotions I could not even begin to decipher. Before I could figure out what to say, she closed the distance between us. Her pale hand clamped down on the handle of my suitcase. When I hesitated to let go, her gaze darkened completely. Her voice dropped to a freezing whisper. "Let go of the handle, Chad, or I swear to God, I will pick you up along with the luggage right here in front of everyone." I immediately released my grip, taking a massive step back to put air between us. She stared at the empty space between our bodies. The corner of her mouth twitched, and the dark storm in her eyes grew even colder. A few minutes later, I found myself practically shoved into the passenger seat of her car. I told her I needed to head back to the office, arguing that getting out of her luxury in front of my firm would cause too much gossip. "Thanks for helping with the bags," I muttered, staring out the window. "But I think it is best if I just catch a cab from here." The politeness in my voice was strictly business. It was a cold, formal boundary I had not even realized I was building. The drive from the airport to the city center was not terribly long, but the thought of being trapped in a sealed metal box with Holly made my skin crawl. She scoffed softly. "What are you so afraid of? We are legally married. If they see us, we will just take it public." I kept my head down, fingers digging into my own palms. There was a time when all I wanted was to go public. But now, with divorce papers looming in my near future, throwing our marriage into the spotlight would only create a chaotic mess. The invisible wall between Holly and me had been built a long time ago. As the CEO of Pinnacle Holdings, she drew a brutal line between her professional empire and her private life. I knew exactly how ruthless she could be, which was why, even at my lowest point, I never begged her for a favor. Not even when I spent months pulling all-nighters for a massive pitch, only to have a senior colleague named Brenda snatch it away with a single smug comment. "My husband's uncle is an executive at Pinnacle." Brenda had mocked me in the break room. "Even the head of our firm has to kiss his feet. What makes a nobody like you think you can compete with my connections?" The project I had bled for was handed over to someone else the next morning. I admit, I wavered back then. When it came to connections, the entirety of Pinnacle belonged to Holly. She would not even need to show her face. A single text message from her would have been enough to hand me back the project that was rightfully mine. That night, after agonizing over it for hours, I finally swallowed my pride. "I heard your company is planning to invest in our firm?" I asked her, my voice trembling slightly. Holly maintained her usual icy composure. She did not even look up from her laptop, simply offering a dismissive hum of acknowledgement. "If someone at the firm was bullying me, would you have my back?" I asked, trying to sound casual and